Hey guys, this is the Rapid Fire Tommy Gunn, and today we are drinking at Moe's. So if you want to come in and stay tuned, bring yourself in. We're gonna have a nice little bit of a chat and see what's up.
This is Drinkin at Njpw, where we talk about the pros of pro wrestling in the Midwest while sipping on some brews with blessed beers and wrestling. That's my scene. Death matches and lucha libre, it's also mean. I'm a straight up smart goofball, not no kiss ass. I stand tall when it comes to wrestling. I'm the king. I know every move, every fling. Get ready for a wild time with Drinkin at Njpw, where we don't quit. Drinkin at Njpw, that's where it's at, like a power bomb. We hit hard, never flat. Fucking right, we're living the dream. Talking about wrestling, oh it's a scream.
You know, I've always said here at Drinkinatmos, just because it says drinking at Moe's does not mean it has to be alcoholic. So I'm happy to say Drinking at Moe's is sponsored by Prince Nana Coffee, the, the exact same guy you see every week on Dynamite, on Collision. Yes, he has his own coffee, and it's freaking delicious. They don't even roast those beans until you've placed your order. And you might be telling me, hey, Big Mo, I'm more of a tea guy. They got you covered there too. Use the referral link in the description of this video. And let's get you dancing like Prince Nana with Prince Nana Coffee. All right, everybody, welcome Drinking at Moe's. Big Mo here. You know the drill. YouTube, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff, because YouTube's algorithm continues to be a pain in my ass. We are in most places and find audio podcast platforms too. Today, another little bit of my running series of different people coming in for Fantastic League of Wrestling. Going international with this one, the Rapid Fire Tommy Gunn. How you doing?
How you doing, man? You good?
Oh yeah, I'm doing just fine. I had a couple big episodes recently, and guy that had been on national TV, so I can't complain.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Like I've staying linked to what you're doing, and that it's pretty good, man. Pretty busy dude, by the sounds of it. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, and that means a lot hearing that. But yes, very 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 busy. I'm already trying to think. I only got a couple spots left in July,
Wow,
and then I'm
really
looking
busy
into
guy.
August.
There you go. Yeah, so really busy. That's wicked. Obviously that's what you want to do, and that's what you want to be. And the more you can get, the better it is, and it obviously expands the channel, and the
Oh
rest is
yeah.
history.
Oh yeah. I actually just after I released my episode with the man formerly known as Fuego del Sol, or KJ Orso now,
Yeah.
just got up to on the YouTube channel 450 subscribers. So I mean, it's not like I got one of those fancy YouTube silver play buttons behind me, but
Yeah,
doing pretty good.
it's getting there, man, and that's the thing. It's all about the grind. It's about the hard work and paying your dues, and I can keep going, but
You know,
all,
I
all part of it. All part of it.
oh totally, and I've enjoyed a lot of good stuff. I've been very lucky. I'm always flattered when there's people that have actually asked me to come on instead of me reaching out to them, and
Yeah,
that always leaves me like, holy crap, okay. All
but
right.
that's good. But that's good because obviously you're clearly doing your job right. So if they're coming to you and asking to be on and stuff, then what does that show to you? You know,
No, yeah, no, definitely makes me feel like I'm doing something right.
so just
So
keep going. Just keep
oh
going.
yeah, oh yeah, I don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, wicked man.
So first thing I like to start off with everybody with when they first come on, what got you started as a fan? And then kind of a two-parter here. What got you started uh, making the leap into the business?
Okay, so when back in England, I was young. I'm one of three brothers, so I'm the middle one. We were messing around in the living room back in England, and my dad was getting fed up with us three constantly just wrestling each other all the time and stuff, as parents do, and brothers be brothers. So then he goes, "You want to watch real fighting? Well, this is real fighting." We were obviously little at the time, and that's when WWF at the time was on and on Sky Sports back in England and stuff, and we like the big colourful characters: Hulk Hogan, Ultimate
Mm.
Warrior, Big Boss Man, the British Bulldog,
Mm.
stuff like that. You got all these kind of characters and stuff, bits and pieces within that, and that grabbed my attention. That's just like larger than life. So like as we got older, my favorite personality at the time was Hulk Hogan, just because of this larger than life, how everyone was wearing the red and yellow colors,
Yeah.
like into that the Hulkamania era. My eldest brother's favorite wrestler, and still to this day, is Bret the Hitman Hart.
Right.
So he's always that. But my eldest brother does wrestle as well. He does it on the odd occasion and stuff like that. And they always, anytime that we're fighting each other, it's almost like he's Bret and I'm Owen in that
Mm.
way. So we got that kind of brotherly feud and stuff like that going on. My little brother used to do it years and years ago, but he kind of like veered a different path. And his favorite wrestler was Roddy Piper, I believe.
Yeah. All
So
all all good. Yeah.
which kind of makes sense. And as we grew up, the personality wise, obviously me not being Hulk Hogan for starters, I'm just putting that there. But
Yeah.
my brother, yeah, not going down that route.
Yeah. We're not going there.
As soon as I into the business and got the understanding who Hulk Hogan is and was and about and stuff, it just kind of veered off a completely different avenue. But as you're growing older, that was the colourful kind of thing from that. My eldest brother, in regards to Brett, he kind of sticks to kind of the same kind of things what Brett did and does. And then for my little brother, he's always had a mouth. So, so it kind of suits to our personalities on that. But then, as I got more older and stuff, watching it, then I watched, I had a bit of a gap in between it to then came into almost like the Attitude Era at
Mm.
that time. I had a bit of a phase off of it. Was watching a lot of football, aka soccer in England.
Mm.
So we were watching that quite a bit. Then we veered back into it. And the first match, or the first thing I saw, if I remember right to this day, it was Stone Cold Steve Austin and Undertaker on Raw at one point. So they're having like obviously the feud going on at that point. Then obviously then you're seeing Ken Shamrock on there, then you're seeing Big Boss Man who wasn't in
The SWAT team looking stuff.
Yeah, and seeing Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, like him going from like this big kind of colourful guy to almost like be just him in denim jeans. Do you know what I mean? So
Yep.
it's all those kind of things. Like, so there's all like kind of similar characters in there, or the same character, same people there, but obviously they've evolved into the era. And then yeah, so that's how I kind of got into it. Then going into the next question was with regards to the business. I've had two kind of avenues I could have gone down. I could have been heading down the route of being a professional soccer player, leading that route, or wrestling. But wrestling took more of an avenue for me because I like the spectacle, I like the entertainment, the athleticism, what's involved in professional wrestling itself. And I figured I want to give this a go and see if I can do it. And then eventually found a wrestling school that was probably about an hour or so away from where I live in the UK, which was in a place called Dudley. It was a promotion at the time called FCW, which was run by the Tomcat Kevin O'Neill and Lee Massey. They were running the company, and it's the company where James Maverick, Spud, Origin From, the Bomber, Dave Mastiff. Those guys were in that company when I was training.
Ah,
So, those are like kind of two top names that come to mind there. And they were pretty much here and I was here. So I was like trying to train up to be to where they were. Um and then, you know, I then got into it and then got used to it. And then remember my very first ring seminar that I did with them, I took that bump and you kind of know if it fit, you gravitate towards it or you don't.
yeah.
And to me, when I took that bump and ran those ropes and did all the stuff I was doing at that time, it just felt so right to me. I just felt like this is where I need to be.
No, yeah. No, I.
Um, it's a weird way because like landing and taking a fall in wrestling in the ring, and those guys that have been in it for a while and stuff like that and done your podcast and stuff, they can probably vouch to this to some degree. When we're taking a bump, it's almost like a mini car crash to that some
Hmm,
degree.
I've
So
definitely heard that. Yeah.
yeah, so like it's a bit of a sick way of getting into the business, but that's what it's about. But it felt right. I felt at home. It felt like I was going to be doing something in this. And then
That's yeah.
yeah, and then 3+ years of training with that company to finally get my shot at the late 2005. So December 2005 is when you can say I made my debut, and then the rest has technically been history.
No, that I know. I participated in a kind of a seminar, pro wrestling boot camp, as they put it,
Mm.
and we did a lot of stuff and ended up getting run ropes and doing some bumps. And yeah, I was walking funny for about a week after that.
Yeah, trust me. Like the day or two afterwards, it felt like I did like a massive workout and some to feel the side effects from it, and it sucked. It does, but that's your body just adapting to what you've been doing, and
Yeah.
once you do the reps and the reps and the reps training and stuff, your body then almost kind of conditions it to that.
Yeah.
So, you know, um, so yeah, so kind of that's basically how it kind of evolved really from when I was a kid watching WWF with my brothers, messing around as we did, to then have a little bit of gap as I got older into my teens, and then eventually somewhat mid-teenish, late teens when I started to get back into wrestling again and wanted to do it, and then founded the nearest wrestling school, training there for some time, but also I trained down like one day in Portsmouth with FWA. So those guys who know like the British scene, FWA was like one of the hottest British wrestling companies out there next to all wrestling and stuff. So we went down there for the day and trained with Mark Sloan, and if I believe it right, my brother might correct me on this, but I believe that we trained with a very, very, very young Zack Sabre Jr. at that time.
Yeah.
So,
Very.
if I remember right,
Yeah.
so we did like the day down there, and then obviously coming back up, it was a nightmare getting back up, but we managed to get back up in the end. It took a long time to get back up, but it's worth it. That's all part of the journey. If
Oh
you're
yeah.
going to train places and stuff, you go to where you can to learn and sponge as best as you can, and anyone
Mhm.
that's coming in the area or you go to them, it's a case of like trying to pick things up along the
Oh yeah.
way. Um, but yeah, so that evolved into where I'm currently am now. Obviously, in between all that stuff, you have your ups and downs, highs and lows, injuries, and all that kind of stuff, being on the shelf and all that kind of stuff to go with it. I was a sideline for about probably a couple of years with injuries and stuff, but eventually, started to get healthier and feeling a bit myself again, and started to think like I'm gonna see where this takes me. And right now, as I'm sitting here talking to you, sitting in United States of America, representing Flow, and it's mental.
No,
So
I was gonna say I saw a little bit of a gap there, and I
yeah,
you were talking about some of your favorites and siblings' favorites, and
mm,
you ended up mentioning one of mine, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I got like a whole crap load of Stone Cold stuff right here, including one of his beers.
nice. Keep it handy. You might need it for one occasion.
Oh yeah, I actually the one I on one hand I look at it somewhat fondly, but on the other hand, I'm kind of bummed because the audio of the commentary that I helped do for this show had never got put out there. But I did end up getting to have my own entrance, and I asked when I was there, I want to do this whole Stone Cold with the like, and I'm like, can I? And said I could, and I'm like, you do not tell a Stone Cold fan that he can have a wrestling entrance and do that at a show and then go back on it. So
Yeah.
don't tease me with that.
Man, ace.
Oh, oh yeah, it was too much fun. But yeah, I've always imagined if I ever got to go and be in the ring myself, I'd be somewhat of a mix of Stone Cold and another favorite of mine, Tommy Dreamer.
Okay.
I'd be a bit of a mix of the both of them because,
Use a king, DDT, get up and do the whole smash and that, and yeah,
yeah, something like that. But then, getting into the commentary side of stuff, I've I found my because I'm a natural goofball as it is.
mm-hmm.
I I watch WWE stuff now, and I see Pat McAfee out there being just the natural goofball that he is. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be the Pat McAfee of my commentary team. I'm going to bring that same energy that I would if I were just sitting out in the crowd, just being a
Yeah,
random goofball trying to get people to crack because
yeah,
I'm that fan trying to get somebody to crack, whether it's a
yeah,
one of the wrestlers, the referee, manager, photographer, whoever.
yeah.
I've I've actually gotten a couple. Well, I've gotten one on national TV, and it was
Okay,
hilarious.
okay.
It was right after Tony Storm made a comment about Mariah May slapping the tits off her opponent. And I'm like,
Well,
I went to a show literally the Saturday after that,
okay.
hoping that Tony Storm was going to have a match. And I'm just like, oh, God, please tell me. And then she did. And
Yeah,
I was sitting maybe 2 rows behind the announce desk.
right.
And I'm like, oh, God, give me an opening.
Yeah,
And then she was in the corner. And I just yelled out, slap her tits off. And her manager just, what the fuck? And you can actually see it. And I'm like, yes.
you had your shout out moment for Tony. That's ace.
Oh, yeah. It was awesome. But
Yeah.
one thing I was going to talk to you about is for somebody that, you know, I did fall under the, you know, didn't know too much about the international side of wrestling other than, guys like William Regal or Fit Finley and more recently Drew McIntyre and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's weird to me thinking that a lot of people something like a few years ago that their first introduction to the UK scene in any form was NXT UK when they had that going.
Yeah.
Because
Um,
yeah,
I was going to say is with regards to those, obviously the kind of history with kind of the British wrestling as it's seen is obviously it all obviously started with the world of sport.
yeah,
So you had like your big large and life characters in there. You had your Big Daddy, Giant Haystacks. You had your Mick McManus's, Rollerball, Rocco, just to name a few. But the guys, like you mentioned, Stephen Regal and Fit Finlay, they worked obviously purely at World of Sport, and the guys that kind of trained him a little bit was the guy that's training me to this day, and that's Marty Jones.
hmm,
Um, so they come through that cream of the crop, you can say. So they obviously got their stuff there, and and without the world of sport, without like at the time as well, with All Star
hmm,
Wrestling that's still running to this day in England through Brian Dixon and stuff. God rest his soul. He he gave them their break in somewhat the world of sport era, and then obviously when they had a chance to go over to abroad and to the international scene, that's obviously then it skyrocketed because of that's obviously where the origin from, and just rocketed it from there. So, but with the NXT UK lot, like I remember obviously at that time where you know I was a little bit on the sidelines on this, like recovering from injuries and stuff like that. But when the likes of a friend of mine, Pete Dunne, was there, like with Tyler and Trent
hmm,
Seven. Like, it's nice to see like you know those guys did what they did and made the impact on what they have, and to this day they're still rocking it. It's great. With all the people that have wrestled in NXT UK, it was a cool time. It was a cool time for us over in England because it's like you have people at similar sizes, similar groups, and your statures and stuff, and it's almost like it's almost gives us that opportunity to say like we can do this, we can work for
hmm.
WWE. It's just being the right time, right place, right contacts, but also what stands out to them and what's unique about you that would help benefit not just them but yourself too.
Hmm. Yeah, and I know for me, I mean, yeah, I do sometimes enjoy some of you know, the flashy, flippy styles of like a Ricochet. But then as I've grown older, there is something that is just very appealing to me of, the technical or the just that smash mouth, just knock the piss out of you style of,
Mm,
you got over in Japan, strong style, or, UK, and where they have a British strong style. It's like that. I love that stuff because, you know, there's something enjoyable to me of seeing a standoff in the ring where they're just like almost daring each other to just hit them harder. And I'm
yeah,
like,
just like I've hit this. What can you do? Can you hit me harder? Cool. So I'm going to hit you harder. And it's just a contest on who can basically outdo who in that slugging contest, so to speak. So I get that.
oh yeah. And like I remember seeing, I mean, it's been on even national TV here in the States where you see people doing that or doing like chops to the chest. And by the time they're done, there's like either a mark on their face or like their chest is just beat up and bruised. And I'm like, that just something about that excites me.
Yeah. Well, to everyone that obviously watches it, wrestlers, wrestling fans, and stuff, you know, in this day and age, you have to kind of put some legitimacy in that because technically, at the end of the day, it's like you're paying for like watching a boxing match or an MMA match. Do you know what I mean? So, you've got two people that have got either a huge rivalry, a huge beef with each other, or, it's a dream match or whatever you want to call it. And then you've got those two guys or girls, squaring off against each other. And, it's the old fashioned way of like, you know, let the best one man or woman win. And it just, yeah, it's makes it more entertaining, but almost as well puts that legitimacy on what we do.
Oh, yeah.
Coming out with, as you said, all the marks and stuff like that. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's not light-hearted. It's you do have to take the rough and the smooth with it.
Yeah.
It's for some, but not for others. Yeah.
Oh, no, I totally get you there because, yeah, I know me, I still hear not as much anymore, but I know growing up, I definitely heard that's fake, right? And I'm like, especially after having that taste of it in that seminar, or just knowing the friends that I have that are in the business, I'm like, yeah, no, there's just stuff in there that you can't fake. Like even the there's stuff that could just happen. And like I remember watching a show where all of a sudden the match just abruptly ended, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? And then I see on social media later that a guy got cut up, like a nasty gash in his arm, that they literally had to just abruptly end the match and rush him off to the hospital.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that explains it.
Yeah. Like I've had an incident with that where literally, I don't know if you guys can see it, but if I turn around, I got a scar from there to there.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, that was in the wrestling match that I did, somewhat 2013 ish. So I'm going to say give or take, might be a bit later on, but basically I did a move I've done a thousand of times is a top rope splash, but I went up too high, went down too hard, and normally we kind of brace our fall across our forearms and stuff like this. But in my instance, in this moment, I end up putting this palm of it down,
Oof.
my arms locked, and I broke my radius and ulnar. So, I finished the match, and luckily it was towards the back end of the match, but I finished the match, and it's just like, yeah, these things happen.
Yep. I mean, I had a similar thing. You can't really see it, but I got a spot right here on my wrist where I was in football here in the States with the, tackling and the shoulder pads and stuff. But I caused the guy that was carrying the ball to drop the ball. So I was like, then before I know it, I got tripped and I landed on my arm like that.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'm like, well, I'm on the ground. I might as well go for the ball. And then I proceed to get my arm trampled. And they didn't even take me out until like, a few plays later. And I go to grab one of the squeeze water bottles on the sideline.
Oh, yeah, I'm squeezing it.
And I tried squeezing it. I'm like, I walked up to the coach. I'm like, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
And what was funny though, that was a while ago. It happened when I was in high school. And the thing, I jokingly give my parents crap about this to this day, but they didn't even take me to the doctor to get x-rayed until after school the next day.
Okay.
Like I had to go to school and they said, if it's still hurting you after school, we'll go to the doctor. And then they took the x-ray and they came back and they're like, yep, it's broken. And the look on my mom's face, I was just like, I told you.
Yeah.
Gotta love it. But going into it, got the shirt, you got the logo behind you, Fantastic League of Wrestling. We're in the second season here. And it's your U.S. debut. How did that come about? Because, I mean, Mr. Bullard, he has connections all over the damn place.
Oh, yeah. I call him the godfather of wrestling, just because he's got literally contacts left, right, and center. You name it, he's probably got it in his speed dial at least.
Probably, yeah.
But so how it came about was so I watched a video on Mike Quackenbush Till We Make It. So shout out to Mike Quackenbush there. He's one of the Flow coaches with us.
Yeah.
So, he's going to be with us on the June 7th show in Indiana Beach. So he'll be there. So shout out to him. At the moment, I believe he's currently either coming back or still in Brazil at the moment doing his stuff there. But how it came about was I was watching his YouTube channel Till We Make It, and it was one of the episodes on it where, for us professional wrestlers, what's needed in today's era of professional wrestling. So he send out a survey to a bunch of wrestling promotions around the United States, Japan, Australia. He put out 10 surveys to 10 different places. And, one of the companies that was part of the survey was Flow. So I looked up on there and I saw a thing on it saying, thank you for using us as part of the survey. And I thought, okay. So I messaged the page and basically said, I'm interested on, working, for you and your company, United States. I would love the opportunity to. And then me and then John got talking, and the rest has been history. And it's, for me to be over here in the United States, it's, I've been doing this for about 21 years now. And this is almost like a decade in the making for me, because when I was starting out in my career, I could have had the opportunity to come over to the States back then. But then injuries and things like that were happening, and it kind of fizzled out, and that was the way it was. And then all of a sudden now to have the opportunity a decade later to then come over to the United States and doing what I'm doing whilst I'm over here, it's definitely some off the bucket list for sure. To be able to say that I've wrestled in United States of America, doesn't matter kind of which state it is. The fact that you've stepped foot in the soil of the United States to then wrestle in the United States, that's a tick off.
Yeah.
And then we were talking, and then noticed that season 2 was obviously coming up for John, and it's like, well, I can, what are your dates? And he told me the dates and when they're doing it to and from. And I said, well, I want to come over and do season 2 essentially, or come over to the United States. So I've been in the United States since April 1st. Did the first show for Flow back in April 7th. We did the show, and it was good. It was a good show, very good show to kind of step my mark in it. We've got one coming up on the 31st of this month in May. It's a privately done at the Chicago Rec Center for the special rec lot for those lot. But it's almost that show itself is literally like a World Cup. You've got myself from England, you got Lastrella, if I pronounce it right, from Dragon Gate coming over. You've got guys from Canada coming across. You've got guys from Mexico coming across. We've got obviously the Americans being there and stuff. And it's just it seems a bit like a World Cup kind of feel.
I would definitely agree there. Yeah. I was looking at it, and it's like, holy moly, yeah. Bit of a World Cup right here.
Yeah, so we got various different people from different parts, and that's what I like about Flow is the company from when it started to where it is now, it's gone from here to here, massively, and it's still growing, and it's ace, and to be part of Flow, not just as the brand, but being involved in Flow itself as well. It's it's a cool experience on my part, and it's cool to kind of see it grow in front of me, if that makes sense. So being part of that's wicked.
Makes perfect sense, because I know I kind of got involved in kind of a similar fashion because I remember seeing, I think it was a post about, I think it was international partner promotion in Japan. And then it just got me thinking, partner. So I reached out and I'm like, have you thought of having a podcast partner? And then
Yeah,
before I knew it, here I am. And I'm like, okay.
yeah,
It was one of those things like I remember having, I was involved at a fan fest before a show in St. Louis.
okay,
And it, one of the matches that night was Jeff Cobb versus Jonah, or more people would know him right now as Bronson Reed. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, I want to talk to one of those guys. I want to record with one of them. I mean, if I get both of them, cool. If not, whatever.
yeah,
So I walked up to Bronson Reed and I'm like, would you be interested? Thinking in my head, because I'm my own worst critic, is he really going to want to? I mean, he was in between New Japan and Impact Wrestling at the time, or TNA.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, is he really going to want to? But then I'm like, hell, if I don't at least ask, I'm going to be beating myself up over this. And then before I knew it, we were recording. I'm like, holy crap. So I get it. And with, everything that's been coming up with the second season here, I know I've been looking forward to seeing all of these international people like uh, Australia. See, now I'm having trouble pronouncing the damn name.
Lestrella, I believe
There
is.
we go. Well, yeah. And if I remember right, I forget the amount of wrestling I've been watching lately. Memory gets a little fuzzy, but I remember, I'm one to say it's either the May 31st show, which this will be coming out after, but it was either that show or the June 7th show at Indiana Beach, where you two will be facing off against each other for a brand new title at Flow, which not, I've mentioned this with a few people, not everybody gets to be the first ever champion for whatever promotion. And now you both are getting the chance, season 2, to be that first ever brand new champion. And that belt looks pretty damn nice. I've seen the
Oh,
belt.
it's gorgeous, man. Like I like I've seen it and I've seen it in a person and it looks absolutely amazing. I haven't touched it yet, and the reason being for that is because depending on the best man wins. At the end of the day, whoever has that belt needs to earn it. So as far as I see it, like you can touch it, all belts and stuff like that, and but my belief is like if you're going to be wrestling for a title, at least earn the title rather than being like feeling it out and stuff. It's a little bit kind of difficult thing, but
No, I can get it. It's almost in my head when you were describing it. It almost made me feel like not wanting to touch it because one, you're wanting to earn it, but two, it's almost like you don't want to jinx yourself with thinking like, oh, I'm gonna touch this before, and then like, oh, that
yeah,
means you think like, oh, that means that, oh, I know that I'm gonna get it, and then you get to the show and, oh no, you don't win it, and then you're like, well, damn it, I knew I shouldn't have done that.
well, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the match with Lestrella. Obviously, it's our first encounter with each other for starters, and that, and I've obviously with him being on the Dragon Gate USA show with the WrestleMania weekend and that, and still affiliate with himself with Dragon Gate. which I believe from the top of my head that that match itself is not only going to be obviously filmed that day for, bits and pieces, but it's going to be aired in, I believe, on a New Japan network as well.
Ooh.
So, from my understanding, that's what's going down. So it's going to be aired in Japan on the Dragon Gate USA network, um, or Dragon Gate network itself. And yeah, so not only, I'm wrestling Estrella, he's representing Dragon Gate, he's representing where, his origin from and stuff. And it's just like, yeah, it's a big match fever, put it
Oh,
that way.
I can definitely sense it because I
Yeah,
know I'm been somewhat familiar with Dragon Gate over in Japan because when I got started watching independent wrestling was when I was in the Navy down in Southern California, and the promotion that I went to most often said that they were bringing in somebody from there. So I'm like, well, and I got to go look at this show. And
mm,
it ended up, I mean, he's now in WWE. Akira Tozawa, he
nice.
was there, so I became familiar with them. And then I remember, if I'm remembering right, uh, at the beginning of AEW, Pac
Yeah,
was one. I believe he was the Dragon Gate champion at the time.
yeah, that's right. He got released from WWE, went back to Dragon Gate and become their champion. And then before AEW started, he was still holding that belt before AEW was beginning, from my understanding anyway. But yeah, you know, I've met Pac a couple of times, like earlier on in my career, like when I was doing, you can say all the flips and flops and stuff that I used to do. With practice, I could probably still do it now, but as you get older, things start wearing down and stuff. It's
Yeah,
natural order. But
yeah.
when I remember we was on a show together in Birmingham for AWW and Digbeth in Birmingham in the UK, and he was on the show that night, and he taught like a spontaneous like kind of seminar whilst we're doing things and waiting around and stuff. And he was the one that taught me how to backflip, land on my feet. So he probably, obviously, if he ends up seeing this, he probably won't remember because it was such a long time ago that it was. He was like he was very leaned out, very slant, like leaned out as much. But compared to what he is now, he's a monster compared to what he was back then.
He's pretty jacked right now.
Oh man, and he's earned his stripes and he's doing it, and it's great.
Oh yeah, no, he's doing great things. But so far, having been here in the States, what have been some of the things you've enjoyed so far with, the show or even outside the show? Because I mean, making your debut here in the States, you're getting to, I mean, I've seen some of Mr. Bullard's posts about different places that y'all have gone. What have been some of the things that you've particularly enjoyed, making your first trip over here?
Everything.
Everything?
But like you got to think in some perspectives. Obviously, if we're like saying if it was my second tour and stuff like that, I could have probably pointed out a couple of bits here and there. But given the opportunity to be even in this country alone to wrestle, that's huge to me.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and hopefully in the next couple of months as well. We're still in talks with it at the moment, so it's still kind of
Yeah.
questions at the moment. But whilst I'm over here, I could be doing stuff in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Whilst, whilst I'm over here, as well as potentially Mexico as well, because it's on the side of the world.
Mm.
So I'm I'm trying to almost put myself out there whilst I'm over the side of the world, for example. And if those do happen, and fingers crossed they do, it's it's more than what I could ask and wish for in some ways, because not only by the time I go back to the UK, not only I've wrestled United States, which is a huge tick off of the list, to be able to wrestle in those two countries itself
Mm.
before I even touch base back into the UK. That's like it's mind blowing.
Oh
So,
yeah, no,
you know,
hey,
hoping if those things do go down, it'd be amazing. You know,
oh
but talks are talks and stuff. But
yeah,
I do end up getting to do those before I leave, and you know, if depending on how the outcome goes, if I win or lose or draw against Australia, um, if hypothetically I win that match and become the first champion, to be able to take that around with me to make that title, meaningful itself. So to be able to take it out of the country will technically be classed as a world championship.
exactly, yeah.
So to go for something that's has that potential in it, even if like hypothetically Australia wins, he can take that back to where he's from and in Japan, and again that classes that as a world championship. So either way, coming out of this, depending on who wins and who's successful out of it, there is potential of that championship leaving the country and becoming a world championship.
Oh yeah, no, that definitely huge things coming up for that. I
Yeah,
know, and heck, with the you know international partners for Flow in Mexico, and I know uh, Canada. I know
yeah,
I've had a promoter that I know. There was a post about like I don't know about all of the international partners, but
yeah,
Island Pro Wrestling up in Canada,
yeah,
Prince Edward Island. I've had
yeah.
I already got them scheduled for another one coming up here in about a month or so. So it's like, heck, while you're over on this part of the world, why the heck not try?
Yeah, and like I said, if whoever wins, the best man wins. Like if it's Strella or myself wins, to be associated with Flow and to be affiliated with all those promotions now, you know, whoever wins, like I said, the objective would be to hopefully potentially defend that in all the affiliates.
Mm,
That's the goal of like with this partnership and stuff like that is you know just everyone working together as one. Being someone from Canada comes to here, someone from here goes to the UK, someone from the UK goes over to Lucha Mania in Costa Rica or Taiwan for Puzzle. It's endless.
oh yeah,
Um,
possibilities are endless. That is, yeah, that is
so
true.
to be affiliated with all those and the opportunity that is there, it's a huge thing. It's massive.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
and yeah, so it's just it's mind boggling just even like saying those things in sentences, and let
Oh yeah.
alone like I said before, like to be able to be here in the United States and doing what I'm doing here. That's it's huge, but with the
No. Yeah.
potential, it's unreal.
Oh yeah. It's definitely mind-boggling when you actually sit down and start talking about the different possibilities for Flow, for that title that you're going up for, and everything that could come after. Because I mean, you're going to be going back to the UK. You can defend it there. You can defend it, like we mentioned. Possibilities endless. But with
Mm,
this new season, and I remember talking to them about they've done a show at Indiana Beach before,
yeah,
and the thing that I I thought was pretty cool is hearing that when somebody asks the crowd who out of everybody there was at their first pro wrestling show, and the amount of people that raise their hands, and it's like,
yeah,
man, that shows like that in a place like they're having it at, the the amount of new eyes that you could get on the product that they might not, heck, they might not really think about pro wrestling all that often, but then you see they end up walking by and then they're like, huh, sparks their curiosity, and then boom, you got a
Yeah.
fan right there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely
Like, I remember when obviously in talks before I was coming over here to work with John and Flo. He sent me that footage of Indiana Beach at that time, and like getting that reaction and stuff. So like, it's huge, and the fact, like I said before, with the company itself growing and growing each day, with you know possibilities and partnerships, as well as like um, TV deals, that's happening right now. It's getting to that point. It's unsurreal for them, and it's only season two.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, so, I can, imagine what season three would look like in some ways. It'll be obviously you have each season's got to be topped, right?
Yep.
So
You
I'm just
gotta.
wondering,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, possibility, man. It's going to grow so big. It's great.
Oh, and I'm happy to have any part that I've been able to be a part of with it all. It it has definitely been something cool to be associated with.
Oh yeah,
Now,
man.
I have two categories that I like to kind of round stuff off with here.
Okay,
First one's a bit of a name game where I name off some people and you give me some quick thoughts on them. And I try
okay,
to theme it towards the guest as much as possible. So each
okay,
of these people, UK connection here.
okay.
First one, we kind of talked about him a little bit, but the bruiserweight Pete Dunne.
Great guy.
All
For
right.
me, we've got history, um, and yeah, outside the ring, good guy for me. Inside the ring, not so good. Fingers and
Yeah.
stuff. But he's good at what he does. Put it that way. He's definitely on top of his game.
Oh yeah. Oh man. I gravitate towards those intense personas, the ones that have that, that smash mouth style. He's definitely one that, oh boy, yeah. I
Yeah,
could I could see being in the ring and yeah, getting the ever loving crap kicked out of me.
yeah, I have. Yeah, we've locked up a couple of times beforehand, and before you know, on the start of his journey, you can say to where he's at now, which is absolutely awesome. He is where he is now. He deserves it, 100%.
Oh,
Grinds and he works and he just does what he does, man. It's great, and to be able to tie up with him and that at the beginning stage, we're all still learning it at this point. You know, there was this one point, I don't know if you ever get to, sit down with Pete one day. You never know, never say never, right?
mm,
Um, we did this kind of carnival show. It was like a Hell's Angel type
mm,
show, like show, and we were like the one of the attractions there. So to have wrestling there at that time was a bit kind of bit of a
yeah,
uncertainty for that point. But yeah,
yeah,
me, P, and a few others were doing those shows. We were there for a few days. It was kind of tough in a way because of like how we were treated and stuff was a bit kind of not great.
mm,
But every time like me and P would like step in the ring and stuff like that, and we did what we did. It was great. And I remember at one point, fortunately, with him doing this whole finger manipulation stuff
oh
as he gets
yeah,
stuff. Well, he was doing that to me whilst we're doing those camps, and like he was getting such a reaction of that, and he just taken it on and snowballed to what it was, and he got new set of gear afterwards. Then he got the opportunity to stay in Japan in the dojo over there for Michinoku Pro, and then became the man he is today, and he snowballed into that, and he's earned it. he's earned it. That's for sure.
Oh, definitely. Next up, I've got to see this guy one time, but yeah, he's definitely a current favorite of mine. Will Osprey.
Yeah. I've only had a couple of encounters with Will. That's when I was on a little bit on the sidelines. Like my brother was doing the shows back then. He did a couple of shows for SWA, which is Shropshire Wrestling Alliance back then. So he came to say our neck of the woods back then and stuff. And Will's a good lad. He's very kind of funny dude to be around. That's for sure. But we've had only like a couple of encounters. Like I don't know him personally, but just being around him, he's quite a nice guy to talk to and stuff. And the guy's phenomenal.
No,
Full stop.
next up, whether you know her by one name or the other, Soraya, aka Paige.
Yeah. So recently, with you can say the Knight family itself, the Knight Empire, you can say. I did a show for them before I come over to the States. We did a 24-hour long wrestling show,
Oh boy.
Norwich, England, in the PC Centre for WAW. Everyone from Scotland to Ireland, even a couple of people from the States came over. It was like a big deal because one of the guys had a freak accident, basically, Lee Mitchell. If you're hearing this or get to hear this, I hope you're getting well soon, dude, and I hope recovery's going better. He had a freak accident where he was catching somebody from a crossbody and he's got paralyzed. So
Ooh.
he jarred his neck and he's paralyzed one here down.
Oh.
So, so, and that's his bread and butter. You can say that's his living. So, we did the Knights decided to do a wrestling show to try and raise money for him.
Okay.
And it's the first wrestle-thon in the country. So to be partaking that 24-hour gig, doing that for that guy and for Ricky itself and the Knight family it was an honor for my part for starters, and secondly, affiliation with them now, like, yeah, me and Ricky get on really well. Um, for Paige, I remember seeing Paige when she was only like a kid with Zach. And this is when I was starting out my career, like 2006, I'm going to say, maybe, something like that. So it's literally late on 2005 when I debuted, so about 2006 ish, something like that. It was Ricky Knight versus the bouncer at FCW, the company I was training with, who Paige's mom was the manager. And Paige, Zach, Soraya, and Ricky all came to the show. They did the show, and we were like messing around in the ring, and they were like in the ring itself, and we are just having like a little bit of a mess around. So I don't know if she remembers that, but it was a long time ago. But
No.
she's created her own path, man. It's great.
Yeah. Last but not least here, I credit this guy for my lifelong wanting to have an English bulldog, which I actually have one right now. The British Bulldog, Davy Boy Smith.
Guy I watched when I was growing up. To be able to, if he was still around today, to be able to meet him and stuff like that would be such an honor, such an amazing experience. But I definitely 100% believe he should be inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's for
Oh,
sure.
most definitely. I mean, even okay. I definitely agree, and especially now with them inducting different matches into the WWE Hall of Fame.
Me and my
The,
brother
the
loved. Me and my brother loved SummerSlam night to Bulldog Bret Hart for the IC title.
that one has to be in there. That one has to be coming up sometime soon, because when people talk about, I mean, not just some of the greatest intercontinental title matches of all time,
Yeah.
but some of the greatest matches in general, that one's often on just about everybody's list.
Pretty much. Yeah,
Definitely.
pretty much. Like, yeah, be able to watch when that obviously came out on VHS for back at the time, and we were able to watch it, me and my brother and stuff like that. Like, well, me and my brothers, plural, you can say. Like, it was such a good match to watch, and even to this day, like you said, it still pops up now, and it's been how many years?
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely in there, and the storytelling, the match itself, and the reaction and the emotion, and seeing the people's reaction when he won, and Davy Boy's like Diana, right?
Yeah, Diana, yeah.
Yeah, Diana being there, and like with all the emotion that was going on, and that it was such a cool event.
For
You know,
sure. Yeah, man, just the visuals of the crowd alone at that show was like, holy moly.
yeah, man.
Definitely.
I'm looking forward to seeing if WWE end up coming to London for WrestleMania. So
Hey, I mean, I know there's a lot of people making a serious push for that.
it'll be honestly it'll be amazing if
Oh,
I were to.
yeah. I mean, with the amount of international big shows that they've been doing for these premium live events, it would make sense for, you know, one of the showcase of the immortals to get over somewhere international at some point, and with London already making a huge push for it, it would make sense.
Well, as we always say in the wrestling business is you never say never.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Now I have some random questions,
Yeah.
some wrestling related, some not,
Okay.
some nothing to anything to do with what we've talked about so far.
Okay.
So I give you a question, first answer that pops into your head.
Roger.
First one, craziest in match moment for you, like one that you were involved in that you look back on and like that was nuts.
I have three.
Okay.
One of them for me was being in the ring with the now former TNA World Champion Joe Hendry.
Ooh.
He was back. He did a thing back in England, and we end up having our one-on-one encounter, which was a great experience for me against him. My second one would be he's currently at the moment wrestling in New Japan Pro Wrestling in the Super Junior tournament in the name of Robbie X.
Oh, yeah.
Bullet Club War Dogs guy, and he's doing well in Japan, and kudos for him for it. And the one that is about the same level is be able to be in a tag match and pretty much working with all the time was a Hall of Famer bound Scotty 2 Hotty.
Oh, yeah. I've got to meet him on one occasion. Yeah, that's something.
Yeah, those three kind of moments for me to that's like, oh shit, I'm wrestling Joe Hendry, oh shit, I'm wrestling Robbie X, and you know, and oh shit, I'm wrestling a former WWE tag team champion, ex head performer in WWE,
Yeah. Yeah.
so um, yeah, those are cool moments. But there's probably many more, but those three that kind of stick out with me at the moment.
Oh no, that would definitely fit. Although
So
I
sorry for
will
there not
admit,
being one, but there you go.
oh no, hey, by all means, I'm all for it. You got more. They all fit. I know when you were bringing up Joe Hendry, I was kind of like, huh, huh? That whole say his name and he appears. I'm like, God damn it! I guess I don't believe.
He was the local hero at the time, so he was the local hero, and he's doing his
Yeah.
thing. And all kudos to him, and again, he's earned it.
Oh yeah, and then Robbie X, Bullet
Yeah,
Club War Dogs. I've I've actually had one of his fellow Bullet Club War Dogs members, Clark Connors,
Yeah.
on. That was one of my. God dang, I'm trying to remember because I'm over 350 episodes now.
Oh, congrats, man, and it's still going.
Oh, it's still going, yeah. So I'm like trying to remember the exact episode number, kind of escaping
Yeah.
me right now. But having him on and being able to say that I've had an active New Japan roster guy on my show was pretty
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky not to not an in-ring competitor, but I've definitely witnessed my fair share of crazy in-ring moments. From I know you've been in ladder matches before. I
Yes.
know I've watched. This promotion had their version of the Money in the Bank. This was
Yeah.
this promotion's version of it, and a guy that one of my good friends that conveniently enough I made him the best man at my wedding. He was in the match, and Sheamus has that white noise with the head down here and the leg. Well, they had a ladder bridged between the the guardrail and the ring apron, and he was on the ring apron with the guy like that. And I see him look down at the ladder. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
He did it, and the ladder folded,
Yeah.
and I'm like, ugh. And my wife thinks I'm nuts for this, but I'm, with being a fan of the intense personas, it leads into being a fan of hardcore deathmatch styles. I mean, I'll watch just about everything,
Yeah.
but there's something about some of those. Well, the first ever death match that I got to see in person, long story short, ended with flaming glass.
Mm.
Yeah, I was like, holy crap, that is nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I've been lucky. Been lucky. Now, mention some bucket list stuff with being over here and making your debut in the States being one of them, and possibly other spots in North America. What is another item on your wrestling bucket list? Because I know for me, we've talked about Japan some. I want, and being a big guy, I don't know how this is going to work.
Mm.
I want to go over to Japan to a show and stay in one of those weird capsule hotels where it's like
Yeah.
it looks like
Yeah.
you're staying in a little cubby because
Walking in the street and just popping into one and just staying there, right?
yeah, I want to do that.
That's ace. Um, man, it's a tough one because being like touching base on all affiliates and stuff, we're affiliated with FTO in Japan in
Mm-hmm.
Oita, which two guys from Flow represented them like a couple of months, well, not even a couple of months ago now, it's a month ago, Gran Torino and Zach Abstract from Flow. So,
Yep, I've had them both on.
yeah, man. So obviously, those two representing Flow for those guys is wicked. You know, to work with all those affiliates for me would be absolutely amazing because that's obviously traveling around the world,
Oh yeah.
doing that. Even Australia, I would love to do. I just basically want to be able to take myself and actually apply what I can do all around the world.
That would
But
definitely.
if you had to choose a particular place right now, Man, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
But I would probably say in the same, but I would say Japan will be definitely the top of the list. But like I said, if I can touch base anywhere in the world and doing what I'm doing right now, bring it. That's the end goal, to be able to be a world traveled guy that's taking different styles from different places around the world and apply it and use it to the best that they can.
Oh yeah, no, definitely all good bucket list material right there. Now, behind me, some of my stuff that I'm into outside of wrestling. I mean, yeah, I got wrestling involved stuff, but what is something like a hobby or an interest you have outside of wrestling? But I know staying in ring shape and training that takes up quite a bit of time.
Yeah, like outside of all like you can say the wrestling side of it, I am a full fledged personal trainer, so I'm PT qualified. So outside of the wrestling, that's what I do. So I mainly work in the fitness industry on that part. Um, so it comes hand in hand with what I do. If I'm not wrestling, I'm training. If I'm not training, I'm weight training or stuff like that to try and keep myself in reasonably decent shape. Um, and yeah, helping others doing exactly the same and vice versa. So outside of all the wrestling, hobbies wise and stuff, you know, um, traveling, I guess, is obviously one because you get to explore different places as you're going around. For
Oh,
starters,
yeah.
being it sounds really weird, but to be able to like go to those like say different countries like I am now and stuff,
Mm.
be able to like train in the area that you're in, like if it's I don't know a gym down the road or you're doing like in a wrestling dojo and doing stuff there, it's all part of it.
Yeah.
So it sounds really kind of boring on that front, but training in those
Hey.
places that I used to I weight trained here as well as I wrestled here.
Oh
that's
no,
really
that definitely fits because I mean, all the traveling that you get to do, and I mean, you're getting to do now, and being able to say, oh, I gotta work this place and for this promotion, gotta wrestle these people, and you know, some of the stuff that you get to do while you're not wrestling in these different places, just a lot of cool stuff. Getting to travel. I've been blessed, both in the military and outside of it, that I've got to go to a lot of places and get to see a lot of cool things. So
yeah,
traveling definitely fits for
yeah,
sure.
and exploring the world, man. Like to be able to, like I touched on earlier, to be able to go to different countries to do what I'm doing, to learn from different cultures around the world. Like it's yeah, you can't beat that in some ways. Um, Hobbies wise, I used to play obviously a lot of soccer, a lot of football back in England, but that kind of ground into the halt when obviously I took over wrestling.
Yeah.
Um, but let's see what else. Yeah, I think that's obviously the two main ones for me. Is obviously be able to still do what I'm doing, enjoying my journey, being like staying
Yeah.
in shape and stuff, as well as to be able to travel to different places around the world to explore different things and cultures and that, and
Uh,
just taking it all in. I guess so. Sounds a bit boring, guys. I'm sorry, but you know,
hey,
still working on that. I'm still working on that. Believe me.
but no, hey, you're getting to have experiences that a lot of people out there might not get to have. I
That's right.
know
Yeah.
when people would ask me if I enjoyed my time in the military or not, I'd be like, well, I got to see parts of the world that I definitely wouldn't have got to see without it, so I can't complain too much.
Mhm.
All right. Now, with the name of a show like I have, I feel like I have to ask this.
Sure.
Favorite drink, alcoholic or otherwise? Because I know there's plenty of people out there that don't drink. And just because it says drinking at Moe's does not mean that it has to be alcoholic, even though, yes, I was drinking one of my beers.
Well, you keep going what you're doing. Believe it or not, I did all my drinking underage before I hit legal age. So I did all that underage, so to speak. But from the when I turned the legal age up to now, I haven't touched it. So I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. I'm trying to stay as clean as a whistle as much as possibly can. That's
Yeah.
just by choice. I see a lot of it in the wrestling business. It's one of those things. So you don't want to be kind of falling into that kind of category and falling down that rabbit hole for starters.
Yeah.
So, but I do like alcohol-free beers, ciders, and stuff like that. But the one thing I do like, which I actually do miss, to be honest, at the moment, is a non-alcohol free Guinness.
Ooh.
That's when I was drinking at the time, I was drinking ciders and bitters and stuff. But one thing I gravitate towards was Guinness. Believe it or not, it's a bit weird taste at first, but the more you get into it, it's like you adapt into it. It's like I don't know about this. I'm gonna try again, and then all of a sudden it's like
All of a sudden, you're like, oh, I like this.
yeah. So alcohol-free Guinness and alcohol-free cider, which you might as well call it like um, fizzy apple stuff or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. You
Yeah.
might as well just be drinking that so the kids can have it, but it's like, hang on, it's an adult drink. But but I've tried all sorts of like non-alcoholic stuff. There's alcohol-free beer, so you Budweiser they're doing alcohol-free.
Mhm.
Carlsberg, Heineken. There's some of the European things, I know they do have it over here as well. Um, but yeah, like those type of things. But Guinness, I'd say, is probably the one I would gravitate more towards for me on that front. So.
Okay. I can definitely respect that because, like I said, just because it says drinking at most doesn't mean that it has to be alcoholic. I know there's
If,
plenty of
if
people
it's
out
just
there.
water, if it's just water or like Pepsi or Fanta, everyone's to their own, right? So
Oh yeah, no,
those.
definitely. Although I actually bringing up Fanta, I've been over only real countries I've been to in Europe were Greece and Italy, and I think it was before Fanta really came over to the States. And I remember being over there and really loving lemon Fanta. And then
Yeah,
I get when it gets over here to the States, it's like I think I found it for like a couple months and then it just disappeared.
yeah.
And then I'm like, man, I really love that, but I can't find it anywhere. Well,
It's
there.
still out. It's still out there. It's we do have it quite a bit now in the UK. That's for
Oh
sure.
yeah, I loved it, but when I mentioned being down in Kansas City this last weekend, we were at this one soda shop that had, you know, there was an international section and the other shelves that was very well organized. But
Yeah,
in this section that was labeled rare, I saw maybe a little bit smaller than this can
yeah.
of lemon Fanta. And I'm like, oh,
Is it? Is it the thing?
I'm like, oh my God. But it was significantly more expensive than everything else. And I'm like, God damn it. But then my sister in law was asking me about it, and I was talking to my wife and her. I'm like, oh man, I loved it. And they were asking me about like what it tastes like. And maybe you think different, but for me, the way I describe it to people, because people think I'm weird when I talk about it here in the States because it's not over here, I tell them it tastes like carbonated lemonade.
Yes, yes.
It's
Yeah,
delicious.
Matt. Yeah, exactly that.
I loved it. I wish they had it over here. I'm gonna
Uh,
say that now.
just have to search around, man, because it's probably out there. It's just obviously located in different spots and bits and pieces, isn't it? So
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll just have to go back down to Kansas City to that shop and go just grab that can, just bite the bullet and just buy it.
yeah,
But then I'll be too tempted to drink it, and then I don't have another can of it.
you know, savor it much as you can if you do.
I guess so.
Yeah, man.
All right. Last but not least here, best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into wrestling.
Okay. So for me, the best advice is look for a training school that has not just a good reputation, that has good coaches, that has people that are willing to be patient and all that sort of stuff with it. Um, as long as you're teachable and coachable, that's all we ask for. And sometimes in being like trainers, like being on that side of it as well, as long as you're teachable and coachable, you listen. Everyone takes things and sponges differently
Yeah.
on that. So my advice is watch, learn, study, put it into practice. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because whether it's a daft question, silly question, or whatever you want to put it, I'd rather know than not know. Um, yeah, being at a good school with good reputation, and just enjoy the journey if you're going to do it. You've got to think to yourself, if you're going to want to do it as a hobby, that's fair enough. If you want to make it in this business, you have to, do all the grind. You have to do, set up the ring, set down the ring, put the chairs out. You're doing all those things, but also, you're picking people's brains in wrestling to try and sponge what works for you. It's the way I see it is we're all on the same tree. So we all have this common goal in professional wrestling. We love professional wrestling. We just branch off slightly differently based on our views, our opinions, styles, how we learn things, how we evolve in things. But we're still on that big ass tree.
Mm-hmm.
So learn, sponge, take it in. Don't worry about like characters or anything like that, so to speak. That will come in time, as long as you can focus on the fundamentals, the foundations, and the basics of what we do, because then you've got that to always fall back on.
Mm.
It's not about the fancy moves and stuff like that. It's all about understanding the things we do, the reason behind it, the psychology behind it. There is method to the madness, and it takes time. It is a lengthy journey. It took me 3+ years to get on my very first show. So it's, if you're wanting to do it and you have the passion to do it, then what is stopping you from doing it? There's all these,
Definitely.
you've got to put into play. And if you always have that doubt, like, what if I did this? What if I did that?
Mm.
Then you're going to live by regret. And if you want to try it, by all means try. There's no harm in it. And if you gravitate towards it, great. If not, then at least you've tried it and said that you've been and tried it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's for you, might not be for you. But
Mm.
bearing in mind, just like myself and everybody out there in the wrestling world itself, we're all still trying to make it. We're still trying to get that contract and get that signing point,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a cutthroat business. At the end of the day, it's a hard business that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to obviously weigh out the pros and cons with everything. There's a lot of sacrifices that's involved in it, for sure. But my advice, like, this is going back to the advice of it, is learn, sponge, find a great school, work your absolute tail off, and you never know, opportunities will literally just come your way if their coach feel like it's earned for you. And yeah, just explore. I mean,
Yeah.
there's many things you can cover with advice, with it. Each one of us has our own, like I said, view and opinion on it and
Mm.
stuff. But um, yeah, just find a good wrestling school what's got a good reputation. That the coaches are patient. but also be able, as long as you're teachable and coachable, everything else will follow suit.
Definitely, definitely. Being coachable is definitely an important thing because you don't want to be that guy going in there thinking you know everything.
Yeah, like to this day, like whilst I'm over here in the US, I'm currently learning the old school style of lucha libre, the proper style of lucha libre. So I'm training with Atomico and All Star Lucha Libre over here whilst I'm staying with Flow. And just I've touched on Lucha Libre in the past when I was coming up in my first, say, decade of doing this, but not to the extent that I'm learning now. So to be able to learn like a style that I kind of knew, but properly,
Hmm.
you know, I, it's amazing to me. It's opened my eyes up to a whole new world for me in that essence, like kind of peeling back the curtain and seeing this is how it's actually done, rather than I can do it, but this is how it's properly done.
Gotcha. Definitely. All right.
So even this stage, I'm still learning. So
Oh yeah. No,
definitely,
it's an ever evolving process.
exactly, you never stop.
Oh, definitely. So before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on Rapid Fire Tommy Gunn, they can go ahead and get them there.
Yeah, so I've got an Instagram. It's the lowercase underscore rapid underscore fire. That's on the Instagram. On Facebook, you'll find me as the Rapid Fire Tommy Gunn. And I'm affiliated with a merchandise store that I've got online, which is Unforgettable Vision. So this T-shirt that I'm wearing right here, you can buy yours on my merchandise store. We've got guys that are wrestling on there. We've got Austin Aries is part of us, so they're part of our affiliation. We got August Latois, which you might have had a meeting or two
Yeah,
with.
I've had him on. Yeah.
Yeah, so August Latois is on there, so we're affiliated with the same clothing brand. We've got our own merchandise store on that online store itself. So if you look for me, Tommy Gunn, I've got my old merchandise stuff and that on there. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So Facebook, the Rapid Fire Tommy Gunn. Instagram is the underscore rapid underscore fire, and Unforgettable Vision for buying your official Rapid Fire Tommy Gunn merch.
All right. We'll get all of that in the description. Thank you again for taking the time to talk to me tonight. It was an absolute pleasure. I look forward to everything you got going with Fantastic League of Wrestling in this second season and
Yeah,
everywhere you're going to be going while you're over in this part of the world.
yeah, man. I'm like, as I said, it's a big tick off the list for sure, and I'm just looking forward to seeing where it takes me.
All right.
But
But now my issue with this fucking button.